Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Friday, February 1st, 2019. Thank you for tuning in tonight to our program. We appreciate the company. Got lots to go over tonight here at the Grand Solar Minimum channel. We'll go ahead and get started right off at grandsolarminimum.com. A little bit of a different format tonight, guys. Mari has gone through the work and is now basically put every article that we're going to talk about tonight, every map, everything that we're going to display tonight is going to be over here at the grandsolarminimum.com, and we will leave a link in our description box where you can get to this website and this article where we pretty much list everything that we're going to go over tonight. So with that being said, let's get started with the solar wind speed sitting at 555 kilometers per second with a density of 7.6. All right, and let's go over to Grand Solar Minimum space weather. Take a look at the KP indices, almost at storm levels. Now, NOAA did predict a G1 geomagnetic storm on the 1st and actually thought that there might be a chance of a G2 by February 2nd. That has not yet happened as we are sitting at current KP of 4 at the moment. So we are just below storm levels, but not quite there. Taking a look at our sun, yes, we are blank once again, folks, for the first time in over several days, actually. AR 2733 has turned the corner, and we are once again blank. Let's take a look again at the SDO in motion, and there's our large coronal hole that is now turning away from Earth, the bulk of it. We do see another minor coronal hole coming to Earth facing. Also looking at the active region that we have going on here in the eastern limb of our star. So far, no indication of a sunspot label on it yet, but it is just now coming around the bend here on the eastern limb of our star once again. And let's take a look at the full spectrum here of the sun. Nothing Earth facing, a very active region coming over the eastern limb, and other than that, not a whole lot going on as far as sunspots. So we will remain quiet, it appears, for now, as long as they don't name this active region right now a new sunspot group. So we will keep our eyes on that. Taking a look at our TSI readings for January 23rd of 2019. That last reading came in at 1360.6208. Again, flirting with that 0.5 value once again, as we've seen TSI here in the month of January kind of drop off a little bit as far as TSI output. Interesting correlation that we have noticed a lack of TSI, and we have seen some cold temperatures across the United States, so it'll be very interesting to see the next few days ahead how far that TSI got. Does it have any correlation to how cold it got with the polar vortex? And there's so much to talk about tonight. We're referring to the polar vortex. But let's get back over to grandsolarminimum.com. We'll go ahead and start with the watchers.news. A strong 6.6 earthquake hits Chiapas, Mexico. A strong earthquake registered by the USGS at 6.6. It hit around 6:14 UTC local time on February 1st, 2019, with a depth of about 42.1 miles. Let's go over to Watchers. Of course, they give a very full-on statistical situation here. They are very good with the numbers. They show the chart of how many people had actually felt the shake, and it looks like here it was a strong one. 680,000 people did feel a strong shaking of the ground. We'll leave the link in our article as well, and in our article as well to get to this, watchers.news. But nothing tsunami-wise. There was no warnings, and as far as we know, there wasn't any kind of deaths or injuries at this point as well. So far the coast is clear, so to speak. And taking a look at our next article here, ice quakes reported from Minnesota and Illinois to Pennsylvania. I saw a lot of this yesterday, and I've never even, this is the first time I've seen ice quakes in the headline before. So interesting new term that I just discovered today. Forgive me for not knowing already. Basically, it's so cold outside right now that you've got some moisture below the surface that's starting to freeze, said meteorologist Ben Dubelbis of the National Weather Service. When the water freezes, it starts to expand. It'll move the soil, subsoil, rocks, and everything around it. That creates little miniature quakes. The cracking of any frozen soil underground is what makes the popping sound that people hear. Arctic air and gusty winds continue to impact significant portion of the upper Midwest into the Northeast. National Weather Service forecasters had warned. Wind chill warnings through advisories are in effect through Thursday, which was yesterday. This was an article from yesterday. Heavy lake effect snows also continued downwind of the Great Lakes. Very interesting. There's a little, looks like a video here on ABC 7. It looks like, I think that's out of Buffalo. But interesting. Again, I've been doing this for a couple of years, and I really don't remember talking about ice quakes last year. So extreme cold taking its toll here on the lower 48, and we'll have to keep our eyes on. I'd like to hear from anybody that actually caught footage of this. I'd love to hear what the sounds are. What's the difference between an actual quake and these mini ice quakes that we actually experience? So I didn't believe it at first, but after reading the article earlier tonight, I felt like this was worth mentioning, even though it was yesterday's news. And I'm not going to go into a long production rant about Tesla's Mickey Mouse battery storage, only able to maintain 100 megawatts for 80 minutes. Is little better than spitting in the wind. And that's a great correlation there, a great analogy. These lines below is the amount of megawatts or dispatchable unit in megawatts. So basically, this is the power that Australia, and I know a lot of people from Australia complain about the green policies there. That's not what I wanted. The green policies there are hurting energy prices, and they're not meeting the standards of what people and their power needs are in Australia. So, with that being said, there was another article on that webpage. I apologize. I wanted to show you. It's not there. I apologize again. But it was talking about all the people that are without power right now as well in Australia. I think it's somewhere over 20,000. But anyway, the source of this information right here is a very good website. It had a lot of energy talk for Australia. I'll try to fix this link so you guys can get the info as well. Up to 10 feet of snow in Lake Tahoe area. Not that amazing. I mean, it's Lake Tahoe. But just want to report, all the snowfalls that we've had in the mountains and everything like that. Here's one to talk about. A period of blizzard conditions is possible for Sunday night into Tuesday morning. National Weather Service in Reno, Nevada, February 1st. Greater Lake Tahoe area, including the cities of South Lake Tahoe. Winter storm warning afternoon to 4 p.m. Tuesday. So starting tomorrow. And here's what we're looking at. Heavy snow and gusty winds expected. Total snow accumulations of 2 to 6 feet at lake level, except 5 to 10 feet above 7,000 feet expected. Snow drifts could be deeper than 10 feet. Winds gusting as high as 50 miles per hour Sunday afternoon into Monday, with gusts to 100 miles over the ridges. Travel could be very difficult to impossible. The hazardous conditions will impact commuting and ski resort travel. Very strong winds could cause extensive tree damage and near zero visibility. Now it says multiple rounds of heavy snow in the mountains are expected this weekend. Monday snow levels will drop rapidly Friday night to 4,000 to 5,000 feet and then fall significantly on Monday. A few inches of snow is possible down to the 1,000 to 2,000 feet range on Monday. Let's take a look at some maps on the storm here, what we're looking at. Here is the official warning from NOAA. Every once in a while they get it right, I guess, Broken clock is right twice a day. So Friday to Tuesday, 5 to 10 feet, like we were talking about, in the 5,000 or higher range. Monday to Tuesday, in the 2,500 range is going to get 4 to 8 inches, and 1 to 4 down to 1,000 feet. So not a whole lot near the surface. I'll leave a link in the description as well. And the big one today. The numbers are in, indeed. So much to talk about. So let's get started with this. Thank you again, Dr. Roy W. Spencer, for your work and making it easier for people to kind of get a grip on what's happening. As most of you already know, our temperatures for January rose. There were several factors for this. Nothing to be alarmed about either, as far as are we reversing the trend. No. The trend is clear. You see the peak. We continue to go down. And I'm sure continuing on, we'll see numbers continue in that peak. Just by following these patterns, folks. That's all we're doing. We're just following these patterns. This will continue to drop. As right now, we are seeing a clear trend from 2016, 2017, 2019. That's a steady declination. That line is trending downward. No denying that. Not concerned about this. And here's why. We can blame a lot of this on the sudden stratospheric warming situation. And that, and this is where I kind of tweeted this out earlier today too. It's really easy to get caught up with your backyard weather when thinking about the global climate. Let's say you're in a really cold part of the country right now, and it's been cold for several days, and you follow this every day, and you're looking at the numbers like, this can't be. We went up plus 0.12. How's that possible? Went from 25 up to a 0.37 above baseline Celsius. Many factors here, folks. Australia, for one, and for all of you who are saying that's fake news about their heat records, I'm sorry, I have to disagree, and so does this temperature anomaly map. It shows that as well. They were the highest in the globe at 1.1 degree above Celsius, above baseline. The Arctic, surprisingly, was a negative 0.18 degrees below baseline for the month of January. For the United States in January, we were above 0.48 above baseline. Tropics, 0.37 above baseline. Southern Hemisphere, 0.42. So everything was kind of up. And it was like that as well, believe it or not, leaving 2018. But we have seen some areas start to cool a little bit as well. Not much change from January's numbers, except where Australia and really the United States at 0.48 were the two biggest factors. Also, we'll have to credit the Southern Hemisphere, not just Australia was a little bit warm. So the culprits in this increase in UAH is going towards Southern Hemisphere, United States, the lower 48 that is, and of course Australia with their current warming situation. It's summer. So again, it's really easy to get caught up because I honestly thought, I know a lot of you out there probably guessed that this month's numbers would be somewhere below 0.20 above baseline. And myself, I was getting cocky. Just because, and like I said, I got caught up with it being cold where I live. So I'm thinking, oh, it's going to be, it's going to be a lot colder because we've had so much cold here in so many other places. But that's not how it works globally. And this goes along with what we preach here at this channel when we're talking about cold temperatures and warm temperatures. It's regional. Okay, nobody on this channel claims that this cooling is global at this point. Right now we're experiencing regional cooling in certain areas. Mara and I were talking about this last night. I believe that since 2016 we have seen winter conditions a little bit worse. 16, 17 definitely went into April for many of us here in the Northeast and other parts of the country. So we are seeing a trend of longer winters, a little bit colder winters, and of course severe weather, more snow. I know last year living in Buffalo is a lake effect machine out there. Being upstate New York is a little bit different. We've gotten 2 big 16-inch snowstorms within 2 weeks apart from each other. So that's a little different from last year. So it's like I said, it's all regional, and you can't get caught up on what's going on in your backyard. One of my friends from high school told me that he's a gardener for the last 10 years. And I mentioned something about short growing season. He's like, where are we having a short growing season? I've been a gardener for 10 years, and I've never had shorter growing seasons. And that's where I also told him, I say, Brad, it's not just in your backyard that we're talking about here. It's a much bigger region. It's a much bigger picture than just what's happening in your part of the woods. There's other parts of the country that experienced late planting, and we covered that last spring, where we talked about Iowa, parts of Wisconsin, other parts in the south that were flooded from all the rain that we got, especially Arkansas, Missouri, parts of Iowa. I already said that Illinois, PA was underwater. The Carolinas had some flooding issues early. The South, Georgia, Alabama. We watched that crop situation where we looked at a chart that talked about how many days before they could actually get out and work in the fields. And this lasted through April into May. We were still having reports of certain areas where farmers couldn't get into the fields until the second week of May. And hopefully it was warm enough and dry enough to begin work. But anyway, back to topic. This is just an example of how things work. And I know a lot of people that that like to take stabs at these guesses. Some have been in surprise, some weren't. A couple people I know actually were pretty neutral about it, and they were already on top of why they thought that the temperatures could go up for January. And a lot of it, honestly, the stratospheric warming, obviously, that has a role in it as well, plus temperatures in the U.S. and other parts of the globe that were slightly up in January above baseline. So while we're over here at Dr. Roy Spencer's too, I'd like to talk about, well, maybe not. I'll have to go back to his homepage. Sorry, folks. All right, so the polar vortex. I read this a little bit ago, and Mr. Spencer, once again, along with other people, and this might be the repeating thing you might hear the most, is the polar vortex. Polar vortex, global warming, polar vortex. Dr. Spencer's article, if the polar vortex is due to global warming, why are U.S. cold waves decreasing? And let me explain. And I'll tell you something right now. Dr. Roy Spencer is the most neutral guy when it comes to climate. He is straight up and down, black and white, no bias, no warming, no cooling, but he does not believe that man contributes to climate change as some of these alarmists do. But here's a graph of the amount of cold waves, like 2 days plus, of colder than the 5% percentile of daily January max temps. And indeed, they are declining. They dropped out almost out of nowhere in the 40s through the mid 70s and started coming back again in the late 70s and the 80s when things got a little bit colder. So it's interesting to me because if you look at from 1989, let's see if I can kind of pinpoint this with the arrow here. If you look to around the area of 1989, so that's right before the 90, I guess. So here we are, 89. Cold waves, less than 4. And then we go up in 90 to almost 6. And then back down by almost 93 to 2. And then we spike up in 94 and 95 to almost 10 cold days. Okay. But I'm saying 89, 85, 89. This was when the global warming scare was introduced. Okay. See where we are. They freaked out because they got, less cold air, I guess, that year. I don't know. But we immediately got cold again. Then it kind of went away for a little bit until the mid-90s. Got cold again. Took a little break. Early 2000s, a little bit colder. And then here recently in 15, 16, 17, and 18, we've seen a little bit more cold temperatures, which most of you know why we've cooled a little bit more since 2000. We are seeing the increase of cold waves if you look at it from 2000 forward. But the best point about this that Dr. Roy Spencer brings up is that if global warming is causing these polar vortexes, because my biggest question, when you see ridiculous tweets by people like Elizabeth Warren, our grandchildren and children should grow up in a world where they can breathe the air and drink the water, go outside without risking their lives in extreme temperatures. It's time to protect our planet and pass a Green New Deal. Hashtag Polar Vortex 2019. That's sad. And what Mr. Spencer is doing is correlating that if we're still buying this global warming crap, then why has the amount of cold waves from 85, let's go 88 and beyond, have decreased? In fact, before we started talking about global warming, there was more cold days, of course, but I'm just saying during the time of global warming, we had less cold outbreaks, less cold waves. And Warren wants to attribute global warming to polar vortexes. Well, how's that possible? What are you talking about? This is another example of these out-of-touch politicians who don't know what they're talking about, and they're just trying to gain some kind of traction, I believe. Everybody's looking for a promotion at some point. Elizabeth Warren, she couldn't convince people she was Native American. There's pictures of her now dressed as an Eskimo because of the temperatures. So, now she's thinking, well, I guess I'll just join the crowds and likes of Al Gore and Bill Nye, jump on that train as well. This Green Deal has nothing to do with polar vortexes. And we showed you the numbers. Take a look at the chart. There's actually a decreasing cold wave events from the time that from 1895 and beyond, but still, looking at the line from the time we were talking about global warming, why was there more cold snaps back when global warming was still supposedly frolicking? But now, since 2000 and beyond, we're starting to see an increase of cold wave, but still down overall in the trend. I'm not trying to trigger anybody by any means, but it's getting a little ridiculous with this polar vortex nonsense. And Joe Bastardi did a wonderful job on covering what is the cause of these polar vortexes. Okay? I'll leave a link in the description on the video for that one. I'll let Joe break that one down because he shows us a correlation that has nothing to do with anything but what's happening in the tropics, the 3-4 region. And he's matching up patterns. And the one thing I really enjoy about Joe is that he's exposing natural cycles on a constant basis. And that's what he did today in his update, was address the situation in the tropics. It's almost like clockwork. When you have warmer temperatures in the tropics, thunderstorms, severe weather in India, in the Indian Ocean, it appears it's followed by a warming event that happens above us in the poles. And Joe was showing the correlation of those. 85, 94, 2014. There is a pattern to be reckoned with. And the bottom line is, instead of blaming anything, grand solar minimum, low solar wind, any of that, you have to go back all the way and look at the total picture. There's so much to our climate, but you have to go back to look and see what's going on in the tropics, in the Indian Ocean. And that's right now, Joe did a great job of identifying those parts in the pattern and what followed after. Now, Joe also believes that it's possible that we're looking at a repeat pattern from 2014. And what was interesting about that was that he was showing the bounce back temperatures back in 2014 and was showing the bounce back temperatures now. And guys, I got to say, they're lower. The bounce back temperatures in 2019 are lower forecasted than what we saw in 2014. And then after 2014, we saw it get cold again from February through March. And Joe is saying the same thing again. 45 days from this point out. So that's mid-March of what he calls a rollicking winter. So buckle up and be aware that, there are people out there who want to try to spin this global warming, grand solar minimum. Joe is no nonsense, like Dr. Roy Spencer. And I really appreciated his weatherbell.com presentation this morning and explaining that it's the tropics, folks. It starts in the tropics, the 3-4 region. So good stuff there. All right, so let's go ahead and check out this star article. What's up with that? What's up with that, I should say. There has almost been a death watch going on in Chicago now for looking for a new all-time low temperatures to beat the previous of negative 27. For those wishing for a new data point, Chicago didn't beat the all-time record, but it did set a new record for the day. The official low temperature of Chicago was negative 21. This shatters the previous record for January 31st, which was set at negative 12 back in 1985. So they did smash a record, a daily record. And the records that date back to 1870s, this is only the 15th time Chicago has seen a daily low this cold or colder. Yesterday was the 14th. So again, not super cold apparently. It's only 14th in the ranks. Here is a chart of all of the, let's go ahead and zoom this in, guys. Take a look at O'Hare, negative 23, negative 31 near Rockford, Illinois. Yikes. And we showed you guys pictures. Frozen rivers, frozen doorknobs. I mean, it was ridiculous. Looked like something out of the day after tomorrow. So very, very cold air here in northwestern Illinois into Wisconsin and Minnesota. I mean, there's just no question about it. There was a story I heard about Minnesota, people getting really hurt from this cold air as well. Let's see if I can find that. Where was I? Oh, yeah. So I was talking about this. Chicago smashing some records. All-time record broken for Rockford with a low temperature of negative 31, or they say negative 30 as of 6:45 January 31st. Rockford broke the all-time record low temperature of negative 27. Not so much smashing it, but they did break it. That was set back in January 10th of 1982. Records date back to 1905. For Rockford, negative 38 was reported in Mount Carroll, Illinois this morning. If accurate, it would set a new Illinois state record for low temperatures. Negative 56 in Cotton, Minnesota this AM was awfully close to their state record as well. Tower, Minnesota, 1996 was the record, negative 66. Negative 55 in 1996. I'm sorry, both of those are 1996 of February. Wisconsin, Minnesota. Vanderbilt, Minnesota, or Michigan, I should say, 1934, February. 51, below zero. And when you look at the map and see the widespread cold, and guys, check it out. You got temperatures in the damn single digits in northern Kentucky. The teens in central Tennessee. I promise you, 15 degrees is freaking cold in Manchester, Decker, Winchester, Tennessee, for sure. Murfreesboro, Nashville. Y'all were freezing. Saw some freezing temperatures in Georgia and Alabama, Mississippi. Even Louisiana got it in the party. So that's a lot of cold weather, folks. This is for the gentleman who claims that we've had 33 heat records in 2019 and 0 cold records. Now, I understand you made this claim before this, but I wanted to show you just right off the bat 160 cold records. Okay? 80 cold highs, 80 cold lows. And I think, Mario, how many we find? Like over 100 other cold records? Or was it less than that?
254.
Before this event, we had found 200.
Really low numbers, I think.
Right. But we had found 254 other cold records for the year of 2019. So right now, that puts us at the grand total of 400 cold records. So thank you for bringing up there's only 33 heat records compared to 400 cold records so far in just in 1 month.
Well, the numbers are so skewed. Like, you can manipulate data and cherry pick. It's just stupid.
Thank you once again, Grant, for putting this comparison together. A lot of talk today about NOAA, and I'm getting ready to go into that right now. And I want to make a correction, too. I've been saying the old Farmer's Almanac. I apologize. I've been meaning to say the Farmer's Almanac, not the old. So here's a comparison. NOAA's prediction of their winter, you see at the bottom. And then you see the Farmer's Almanac prediction at the top. Tell me what part of this map that is wrong up here at the top. Tell me what part. Northwest, typical winter temps, plenty of moisture, mild average temperatures. In the southwest, we've had some cold, but still not enough to say it's freezing there. Teeth chattering cold, plentiful snow. And they're talking about the northern plains, and that's accurate as well. Biting cold and snowy. Again, Ohio and Indiana, Michigan. Michigan just joined that party here recently, so it hasn't been that way all winter. But again, according to Joe Bastardi, we are looking at least 45 more days of a cold, snowy winter, or whatever we've already experienced. Continue to expect more of the same. Cold and white in the Northeast? Absolutely. Sent a video to my brother today. You know, I'm from Southwest Ohio. I'm not used to seeing 5-foot snow banks from being plowed. I'm not used to seeing every parking lot with mountains of snow as high as 15 to 20 feet. And it's just not, I'm not used to that. We maybe got that once in the 30-some years that I lived in Ohio. So everything in this Farmer's Almanac, in my opinion, bravo. Great job. My question is, why did NOAA have so much trouble? I mean, seriously. Look at this. Totally different. Warmer than average. That light shade of orange is about 33%. The darker shade of orange is around 40 to 50% warmer. And the Northwest, you guys are supposed to be in like a spring type situation, I guess. I had to bring it up as a prequel to what we have over here at What's Up With That. Again, they also write a little editorial. NOAA Outlook for the winter of 2018 through 19. Another mild winter. Yes, that's what they said. As of late last October, NOAA's climate models were predicting a milder than normal winter. Now, there still may be spots in the United States that did see a little bit milder temperatures. I'm not saying we've all been cold, but everybody who lives in the regions I just pointed out, you know you're experiencing those conditions. It says here in October, Mike Halper, the air is starting to feel crisp, the leaves are changing, and the aroma of pumpkin spice lattes are filling your favorite coffee shops. This can only mean one thing. It's time for my annual post on NOAA's expectations for upcoming winter, and once again, one of the key players found in the tropical Pacific. They're talking about that El Nino. In contrast to the last 2 years, we were looking at a potential La Nina development. This year, we're waiting to see if El Nino will arrive in time to impact winter. Sadly, for these folks at NOAA, it did not. Without further ado, let's take a look at NOAA's 2018 through 19 winter temperature and precipitation outlook. See how ENSO has affected us. And again, I love these comparisons. I love these forecasts from NOAA. And it makes me feel like I got banned from their climate page on Facebook for a reason. Because I was calling these cons out back in October and November, into December, before they finally blocked me. Been calling it since the fall. And I'm not doing this to blow my own horn here, folks. I'm just saying, like, with the people that I surround myself and the information that I receive and my understanding on what's going on, like I said, I have a lot of help. And I thank everybody, Starman especially, for your constant help in this, trying to understand everything from INSO to sudden stratospheric warming. But I knew, just from connecting the dots from other folks and learning, that it wasn't matching what NOAA was claiming, especially when it came down to the temperature graphs. Speaking of polar vortex, one more time. Well, that's the top. Oh, here we go. Another Elizabeth Warren uses coldest polar vortex in decades to call for a new Green Deal. I read you the tweet already. So I apologize. I have it printed twice, but this gets a little in-depth here. This is via, I believe, What's Up With That once again. Thank you guys. 3 great articles tonight to use. Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren used bitter cold sweeping the Midwest and Northeast to announce her full-throated support for a new Green Deal. I won't reread that. The tweet, they give us examples of Chicago hit negative 23 degrees Fahrenheit, the coldest ever since 1985. Mount Carmel, Illinois, negative 38. Once again, information I've shared with you guys. But, you know, look at her. She's got her hands in her own pockets. Wow. It's that cold that Elizabeth Warren has her own hands in her own pockets. That is definitely the news headline for tonight, folks. Absolutely. And I also wanted to mention this article from Bloomberg talking about Trump eyes action to limit states' powers to block pipelines. This is not a political rant. This has nothing to do with President Trump. This is about infrastructure and the capabilities of getting energy to the right parts of the country. And along with building these pipelines, you have to be responsible of the environment around you. We have to do a better job of preventing spills. We have to do a better job of protecting our groundwater. Okay? All I'm saying is that if we are declining, first of all, into our solar minimum that we're currently going through now, we go through a short cycle of 25, and then we continue to drop towards the grand solar minimum by the 2030s. We're going to need better infrastructure. I know I sound like a guy who's probably backed by big oil. I promise you that's not the case. My point I'm trying to make is that we talked about the nuclear plant. We tweeted out earlier about the nuclear plant that was affected by the cold ice that was blocking these screens that filters cool air to the reactors, or cool water to the reactors. So what if we have multiple of those situations? And what if we have old infrastructure where we can't get the resources that we need, the shale gas, whatever that we need in this region? What happens? And that's a huge concern, especially if we are expecting colder conditions each year. Not just this year or next year, but as we get into the future, into the 2030s, where we will see some significant cold, if not Dalton to Maunder minimum type conditions at that point. But I think it's important we have to boost this side of the argument and make sure people understand that it's nothing about killing your clean water. It's nothing about interfering with any reservation or anything like that. This country is about to go through some major changes climate-wise. Northeast, Midwest, Northern Plains. You guys are definitely going to see a lot colder weather, okay, in the future to come. Just from everything that we've looked at, maps, snow lines, all that stuff that we've looked at for grand solar minimums and what happens during those climate times. I mean, the infrastructure is old, outdated, and like I said, we had a situation today in New Jersey that shut down a nuclear reactor. And I'm going to give Mari kudos too. Coal is definitely the best option right now. To all those people out there who want to get away from coal, natural gas, and other fossil fuels, please tell me and my subscribers on how you plan to stay warm. Please. And if you're going to tell me you're going to use solar panels, are you going to be the one that gets out in the negative 15 degrees with a foot of snow on top of your solar panels and clean those off with wind chills in the negative 20s? Are you going to do that? And that's going to cost more money to these. Let's just pretend that we're all in the future and everything's solar and wind. You're going to pay people money to go out into dangerous weather conditions to clear these panels off. Because without the panels being clean, you can absorb sunlight. And you're not going to have that much sunlight when you're dealing with blizzard conditions, lots of snow, constant cloud coverage, which, cloud nucleation is common through solar minimum when you have increased cosmic rays. So when I think about how expensive it is now to implement green energy to the states that want to try to do that and see cost of electricity go up to 14 to 40%, what's the increase going to be when you're paying people time and a half to go out in dangerous weather conditions to clean off solar panels so everyone can keep warm? I mean, even people here in the Northeast got notices from gas companies asking them to turn down their furnaces 5 degrees. And these are areas that are powered by coal and natural gas. So if we struggle with fossil fuels to supply the demand, and everything we've shown you about solar and wind, this graph right here speaks volumes, in my opinion. This one right here, all those little colored squiggly lines is how many megawatts it's actually producing. That's not very much. That's not going to get, and this is in Australia where it's spitting hot. I mean, when you're hot outside, you want to stay cool, but there's other ways to stay cool. You can jump in a lake, go to the beach, go to a pool, whatever. There's other ways to get yourself cooled off in the summertime. What's really dangerous, in my opinion, and not minimizing heat strokes, because I understand those have serious repercussions as well. But we've seen 17 people die from this Arctic blast in the last 3 days. And 2 days. And we've warned over and over and over again. Mainstream media even warned people, do not be in this stuff if you don't have to. And we still lost 17 lives. So to me, the cold is way more dangerous. And when you're talking about green deals and these out-of-touch politicians who are blaming the polar vortex for a reason to have a new green deal, and Joe Bastardi, like I said, you have to watch it. He breaks it down. He shows us the patterns. He's showing everyone that global warming, none of this has anything, solar minimum, nothing has anything to do with that, with this cold blast. It's all in the tropics. But when you're dealing with cold air, like this, like we've seen, and let's pretend we're all solar, is this energy going to be enough? Is that going to be enough to heat your home, guys? This right here? No. So if the natural gas and the fossil fuel companies are telling you to drop your thermostat 5 degrees to help ease the demand, what do you think they're going to tell you in the solar sector and the wind sector? If we're 100% away from fossil fuels, okay, we're listening to Crazy Cortez and we're not doing fossil fuels anymore. We're all green. We're all solar and wind. If it's 5 degrees and natural fossil fuels are struggling to keep us warm, are we talking 40 degrees on solar power? With this low of an input? I love this. I love this headline. Tesla's Mickey Mouse battery storage only able to maintain 100 megawatts for 80 minutes. 100 megawatts for 80 minutes is little better than spitting in the wind. Perfect analogy. Perfect. This is concerning, guys. And it scares me when people like her are telling you that because of me and you and others, we're causing the polar vortexes. So basically, man should be put on trial for murder of 17 people in the last 2 days. Is basically what Ms. Warren is implying. Because if we didn't put so much CO2 in the atmosphere, these people wouldn't have died. And that, to me, such grandstanding here. These Democrats, these liberals right now want all this attention because we're getting into presidential campaigns. It's going to be a giant circus this year and next year and the year leading up to the election. Giant circus. But concerning when you have people misinforming the public. And let's face it, folks, we live in a divided country right now. And it's not just by a little bit, it's by a lot. Not just politics, but climate. The understanding of what's happening is so different on each side. It's crazy. I think the climate situation, the climate people that are debating this back and forth, I think it's getting worse. Well, I shouldn't say that. Political is pretty bad right now. I wouldn't want to be a political channel talking about politics. Either side, I'd probably get trolled. Either way, the climate debate is starting to get really thick as far as how different, how far apart we actually are on each side. So, again, check out Joe Bastardi, weatherbell.com. He gives us an explanation. Like Starman and others in the community, I'm sick of all this global warming, polar vortex talk. It's just a way to grab headlines. It's just a way to get attention. And I obviously believe that they're doing it to just purposely upset people. Taking a look at the tropics right now, El Nino region, Al Nono region, I should say. Not much change. We are sitting at 0.524 above baseline, so we are struggling to maintain a Moldaki El Nino at this point. I mean, this is not a strong signature for El Nino season whatsoever. In fact, you can see where we have been since this point. Now, by the way, where my arrow is now, we should have maintained at least that between 0.8 and 1.5 for a span of about 3 months, I believe. And we peaked to this. It took a couple of weeks and then shot right down to neutral, crept back up to 1, back to neutral, back under 1, under neutral, and then barely 3/4 back under neutral. So you see what I'm doing here, guys? The peak is getting lower and lower and lower. And a friend of mine asked me today, are we looking at, isn't El Nino happening? I saw it in the news the other day. No, it's not. It's not happening. I showed him this chart, and I explained to him, even by NASA's, or not NASA, but NOAA's description for an El Nino, it doesn't match. The criteria isn't there for an El Nino. Now, could it develop later in the summer and the fall? Possibly. That's possible. But right now, no. It's not going to affect winter. It's not going to affect winter or spring. It could just stay neutral, and we could see a La Nina. I mean, that's possible. It doesn't have to keep going in cycles back and forth. There's our wind chills currently for tonight, February 1st. Not as cold, but it's still cold outside, guys. Take a closer look. Most of the West Coast. If you live on the coast, you're obviously not freezing your butt off. Anywhere on the coast, guys, except for the East Coast tonight, you're freezing your butts off. In the Northeast, from Pennsylvania up into the Northeast. Very mild along the coast, the Gulf Coast, the southern East Coast, and the West Coast. But everywhere else, pretty chilly out there, especially in the upper Midwest, the Northern Plains, and the Northeast. Very solid cold temperatures happening at this point. Taking a look now at some sea ice before we go into our outlook. Here's our graph. Right now, that orange line is almost laying on top of the 2012. And in comparison to what we were at last year at this point, I mean, once again, you can clearly see the distance. And I'm not like trying to brag like this is a lot, but it's increased is the point. The ice growth continues to skyrocket, in my opinion, since late last year. So continuing to monitor that as always. And so here we go. Let's take a look at windy, or actually I want to go to tropical tidbits. So this is our long-term outlook situation. And I've seen a lot of fluctuation back and forth with the possibility, the bounce back temperatures, starting after February 3rd in the East Coast, right here. Sunday, temperatures will be freezing for most of the Northeast, while other temperatures starting to rebound in the Ohio Valley, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, back to normal winter temperatures. Got a big low pressure system moving across the United States here, according to the GFS. Minnesota, you were in a snow drought. This is your third straight snowstorm that you've received since we were talking about last time. But this low pressure system is going to move across the Ohio Valley into the northeast and give us nothing but rain. That's the result of the first of these bounce back temperatures after these polar vortex situations. And we're talking mid 40s in the northeast. Nothing super warm. 50s and 60s across parts of the south, though. And I'll get into that here in a minute. Then we move in later in the week, next week. And there's some back and forth about whether or not this low pressure system kind of gets its act together or not. But look at the size of this thing by February 7th. In my eyes, this is connected. This is all one storm. And things haven't come quite together yet. We're still a week away from this one. But this one might be something to watch. But here we go, moving across the east. A horrible mess that looks like we're seeing in northern Ohio, northern Indiana, northern Illinois, Chicago, freezing rain and a mix of sleet and ice to start that weekend commute. It's going to look pretty dangerous in Chicago, so they might be in the headlines once again. This is where we're not sure where we're going to be temperature-wise, but as you see, this storm, it appears that we're going to be rain for the Northeast. But as it pushes forward into Friday, we get some freezing precipitation in upstate New York before it changes over to rain. But then by Saturday, the storm is bringing cold air with it, and then it changes back to snow. So we're going to see a snow, ice mix, back to rain, back to snow in a matter of 2 days, according to the GFS. So this one is going to be the trickiest one, I think, to actually forecast. And that's for the dates of February 6th, 7th, 8th, into the 9th as the storm takes off. Now, high pressure dominates the United States on February 10th. It's a Sunday, a day of rest, and it looks like it will be a day of rest and cleanup at the same time. But this is a welcome sight. No weather to talk about. Let's hope that holds up. Then we get into Monday. Our next low pressure system forming across the across the plain states. And then we start to see the more snow, the more ice back again in northern parts of Illinois, Indiana, northern Ohio. Northeast, looks like you're going to have an all snow event out of this. So temperatures will bounce back in to the freezing part. This could be just a quick hitter, 5 to 8 inches for most people in the Northeast. And then we get into Valentine's Day weekend. Temperatures again indicate that they possibly will bounce back slightly for the 14th. And this could be an all rain event again for the Northeast. But this is also dragging colder air behind it, which will bring snow past the 16th, the 17th into that region. So long ways out, but agreeing with Joe Bastardi as far as getting the idea that if it's been cold, Northeast, eastern part of the United States, the northern plains, upper Midwest, Great Lakes area, expect more of the same for the next 45 days with variations of days where we'll see temperatures above freezing. But I'm telling you this, guys, I was up here week or so when temperatures got to 49 degrees and we got 2 inches of rain in a 24-hour period. And out of the 16 inches of snow that we had on the ground, it took maybe 8 inches off. And then we got another 16 inches of snow on top of the foot that's already on the ground. So 3 days in the 40s, low 40s and mid 40s, as it was last time when we had that rain event. It was 3 days we were above freezing in the upper 30s and middle 40s. 3 days did not do that much to the melt. And what this is indicating, just like Joe has also mentioned, is that we are nowhere done with the cold air of winter. This is typical. Winter is about bounce backs, all right? Thank God we're not constantly in the 20s and teens and single digits all the time. But you see that cold air, and this was the difference. There's the other bounce back right here. This was the main one that we were talking about, where it's going to be, look at that, nicely warmed up in Alabama, South Carolina, North Carolina. Nice temperatures there. Well welcomed for sure. But this is what Joe was talking about. In 2014, after our first real Arctic polar vortex blast, that cold is not winding back up to the north. It's pushing south again. So for those of you who think these temperatures right here are telling us that, spring is just around the corner. No. Look at the size of this cold air mass in southern Canada. It's trying to push its way down. So this is a huge indicator as well that we are nowhere near done with winter. Nothing severe, nothing too cold right now, but look, as I go into the future, the 16th to the 17th of February, we are still dealing. These are daytime highs right here. I assume this will be another bounce back day before we get to sub-zero temperatures once again in the Midwest, upper Midwest. We could see another Arctic blast by the middle of this month. Still a ways out. I haven't really seen anything that would indicate that, but looking at this pattern, this cold air is stubborn, guys. It is not going anywhere. And I want to look at one more thing. They won't give me temperatures, will they? No. Let's try this. I love tropical tidbits. I just wish I could get, and maybe some of you out there can help me with that. I really would like to get, now this will work. So just to get an idea of what's going on here, guys, this cold air is relentless. Look at that. And it just feels like more is getting funneled further south as we progress through winter, like it's not letting up. That right there, to me, looks like some of the coldest air of the year. Now, in this image here, this is daytime highs. We see the colder air retreating just a tad bit, but right here, I mean, that to me is no sign that winter is letting up anytime soon. A little bit of a pattern shift, but by the 16th, we will see temperatures go back to where we've seen them. Cold in the northeast, more cold pushing down from Canada. So we'll keep our eyes on this, guys. But I trust my sources, and I trust people like Joe Bastardi, Starman, other folks out there that we rely on as well. Apologize if I didn't name you tonight. It's been a long day, folks. But there was a lot to talk about tonight. And again, I want to thank Mari for the amazing work to make this program a little more easier for me to navigate through, and hopefully a little bit easier for you folks to get the information instead of going to the YouTube channel and clicking on the video for the links. You can still do that, but it'll take you back to the website where Mari has set this up, where she is basically, it's like a program for a play. Everything that we cover tonight is in order. And of course, here is the video embedded as well, so that will play as well when you go to the website. But you never know what can happen with YouTube. If it goes away, we'd like to have a backup platform. And I know a lot of other people out there go through the trouble of starting up new channels on Patreon and Twitch and other platforms, social media. But what we are building here at the Grand Solar Minimum channel is our own social media network. Mari is currently in the works with a chat. I know we've kind of tinkered around with Discord and Slack. She wants to imply a chat room for Grand Solar Minimum people who are registered with the website, as well as a social media account. So we're trying to be the hub of information, just in case if something ever happens to YouTube, we have a way to still get the information out. So please visit thegrandsolarminimum.com, folks, to get all the latest info on Grand Solar Minimum news, as I really think this will be a great way to format the show, and also an easier way to share information with you guys out there. To me, I'm ecstatic on how she's laid this out, and I really appreciate this, Mari. Speaking of you, Mari, I was wanting to pull you up here and ask if there's anything you'd like to say to the chat tonight.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen in the chat.
That's it?
Do you like that, Jake?
I guess so.
No, really. Y'all are a pleasure. Every night, it's something different, something new. Everyone really enjoyed your commentary, Jake. I don't know how it went for you using the website.
It was
sort
awesome.
Of like, you did
there
like
was there was a couple times where I kind of misfired, but for the first show of using this platform, I can see this being a lot smoother down the road.
What I like is not only can they watch the video, but they can get more in detail with all the articles, and it's way more visual than just links and stuff. And look at what are you doing? Jeez.
I'm playing the video right now.
Awesome. I hear myself talking. Oh my god!
There was a couple times where I kind of misfired. Okay. I'm just really excited about what we've got going on this webpage, Mari. Thank you again.
So, where do I start? There's so many new faces, and then we have our usual GSM family group that comes in all the time. So hello to all of you. Ian said, epic show, Jake, you're the man. And then he had a couple other cheeky comments.
My tiny head with the big microphone? Worse than that? Ian.
But anyway,
that boy.
I want every one of our viewers, because we're a family here at GSM. Ian, he's always in good spirits. He brings us pure joy. He has a great personality. He's our Viking brother from across the pond. He just has gone to the UK because his daughter has a very serious cancer. And he put, so all you powerful, wonderful, loving beings on GSM, send her some love, energy,
absolutely,
hugs and kisses. So we are keeping
positive
Ian
vibes
in our thoughts and prayers. Ian, definitely, brother, keep me updated on how you're doing. Very sad to hear that, but we are going to stay positive.
Yep. And
she's going to pull through it. So, E.T. said, anytime you hear him talking about Tesla inventions, he's talking about Nikola Tesla, not that modern day clown. So we should just make that the broad assumption for the whole channel. Everyone on that channel pretty much is right with you, E.T. Scott Brothers, he said, maybe if we start calling coal and stuff like Earth Power.
There you go. Earth vitamins.
They might vote for Earth-based
Earth
fossil
vitamins.
Fuels. Like if we call it Earth Power.
Earth Power, Earth vitamins, Earth supplements.
We've had a couple people volunteer some of my green thumbs in the chat. If they want to, help me build some topics in the forums on the website so people can start talking about gardening, have a place to organize our thoughts and projects and all that. That's sort of when I want to get started. So reach out to me if you're interested. I love hearing other people's gardening, landscape designs, greenhouse designs, that kind of stuff. Share away, and let's start having an organized place to put it. I have created a forum for gardening alongside all the other forums in the group, and they're just getting started. We just have to build it, and I'm not building it alone. I'm going to build it with this community, so I'm excited to see who chips in. And that's all I got right now, Jake. I know I did a lot of talking on my other video, so you guys don't need too much of me in this one.
No, long day. You're fine. Thank you very much for that brief report there, Mari. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us tonight. We really appreciate everyone starting your weekend with us here at the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Please be sure to subscribe and circle that notification button. Also, like and share. We are on various formats of social media, Twitter, Facebook, Patreon. Of course, thegrandsolarminimum.com is what we want to be known for, the mega social media interaction for all in the Grand Solar Minimum community. Not just for us, but for all. All right, guys, that's going to do it for tonight. Friday, there will be no show on Sunday, but we will be back live Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. I can't roll out maybe a small update video from Mari over the weekend. That's going to do it for us tonight, folks. Again, we'll talk soon.